So, Mark Carney has decided to remove counter tariffs on the US starting September 1st. Now, if you have been following the media, you may have heard that in some cases tariffs are framed as some kind of a new deal.
The Prime Minister's trip comes one day after he announced plans to drop retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods covered by CUSMA. That's the North American Free Trade Agreement. To discuss further, we're joined now by John Manley, former Deputy Prime Minister in Jean Chrétien's Liberal government. Mr. Manley, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. What was your reaction to the government's decision to drop these tariffs?
I wasn't honestly that surprised by it. We were only one of two countries that had imposed retaliatory tariffs that didn't exempt anything that was subject to a free trade agreement, the other country being China. So that wasn't good company for us. The Mexicans had already moved in this direction. And I think for Canada, the biggest prize in this whole thing that whatever it is that we end up with, we're hoping to preserve as much as we can of that USMCA or CUSMA trade agreement.
Right. And the criticism we've heard from the political opposition, as well as Unifor, Canada's largest private sector union, and others, is that the Prime Minister keeps making these concessions with nothing tangible in return. Do you worry that risks undermining our bargaining position?
It's easy for us to think that we have a strong bargaining position. We have some challenges in that. Clearly, the U.S. market is way more important to us than ours is to them. So we need to, I think, take that into account. And secondly, we've all been saying this, tariffs are dumb. Tariffs are a stupid thing to do because they're not paid for by other countries. They're paid for by your own domestic consumers. So if we think that's true and that it will ultimately be realized by Americans that this is costing them money, then why would we impose tariffs on our own consumers? That's not a sign of strength. That's a sign that we're just as dumb as they are.
And we're almost out of time here, but Mark Carney, as we all know, campaigned on elbows up. That message helped to get him elected. Does this reversal hurt him politically, do you think?
Well, I think he has to explain it, and I think it can be explained. But I think there's no doubt that elbows up is still the sentiment of the Canadian population. I think Doug Ford has been very good at channeling that, I guess, zeitgeist of the Canadian population in ways that Mark Carney probably should not, given that he has to deal with Donald Trump. But I think Canadians are still elbows up. But let's be smart. Gordie Howe, that's where the expression came from. He didn't put his elbows up the moment he was tripped. He'd wait. He might even wait till another game, and his elbows would go in somebody's ear. So, let's play this smart. I think that's what we're counting on Mark Carney to do.
All right, John Manley, former Canadian Deputy Prime Minister, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
But let's be clear, tariffs aren't trade deals at all. It's a narrative the fascist gangster has successfully created by simply repeating the word deal again and again and again. Because like so often, if you just repeat a lie over and over, people start to believe it. First, a quick refresher on tariffs. No matter how you spin it, tariffs are a tax paid by the importing country's consumer. When the US puts a tariff on goods from China, American importers pay the tax and then pass that cost on to American shoppers. The idea that this brings money into a country is preposterous. It's a myth. Tariffs simply move money from the people's pocket into the government's treasure. When Canada imposes a tariff, which is an import tax on goods, then such goods are more expensive for Canadian consumers. Tariffs are stupid. They increase consumer pricing and hurts the economy. our Canadian economy. Most of us, if we want to buy something, we research who has the lowest prices and buy from that business. I've never heard someone saying, "Oh, I love to buy from the most expensive source." No, that would be ridiculous. It would be stupid, wouldn't it? So, Carney announced to get rid of the counter tariffs. And predictably so, Pierre Poilievre has to make a mockery out of himself.
Strategy.
His elbows have mysteriously gone missing.
But is it...
Seriously, have you ever heard this guy saying anything reasonable? Something that makes some kind of a sense? Being in opposition is the easiest job in the world. Just shit on things. You never have to prove anything. Just be negative about it. Anything. But on the other hand, to run a country is a tough job. A job that requires skills. Well, that is one of the reasons why Poilievre will never be Prime Minister. However, our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has to do what is best for the country, for our country. And I think that is the reason why he did what he did, knowing very well that people will spin it as a loss. But it's not a loss. Instead, it was a very calculated move. It might look like a concession, but I see it as a strategic necessity. Those tariffs technically violated our existing kushma, and that could have worked out very bad for us. The fear was, if we didn't remove them, the US would revoke our exemption and hit even more of our economy with massive new taxes.
Economic news.
Canada and the United States have reestablished free trade for the vast majority of our goods.
Starting September 1st, Canada will scrap the 25% counter tariffs it placed on American goods covered by the North American Free Trade Deal, a gesture in the hopes it will reset the relationship with the U.S. Do you have any assurances from the Americans that this will kickstart negotiations? Did President Trump specifically say that in his conversation with you?
Yes.
See what Canadian retailers have to say about tariffs.
Those counter tariffs were meant to hurt the U.S., but they also raised costs for many here in Canada. Jayla Bernstein with the reaction from businesses tonight.
This Montreal grocer says his prices have stayed low despite the trade war. He sells local produce as much as possible and only stocks American products when there's no alternative.
So this one effect, this is like a lot. $2 a unit for one barrel is a lot. And the big one, we used to sell $10.99, $15.99.
So that's something in a few weeks that maybe will come down.
Maybe come down. So we'll see.
Broadly, Ottawa's announcement that it will lift many counter tariffs has Canadian businesses breathing a sigh of relief.
A lot of businesses have been trying to absorb the tariffs up until now and not have it reflect in their pricing to much great degree. So this might give them a little bit of breathing room.
Canada and China were the only countries to slap counter tariffs on the United States. A tough hill to climb, more or less alone.
Those tariffs were not having an effect and an impact, partly because you're 1/10 of the size of their economy. And so to use the analogy, if they're an elephant, we're a beaver. We're gnawing away at them, but the elephant's not noticing.
Counter tariffs will be lifted on U.S. products that are CUSMA compliant. That could include citrus, cosmetics, and sporting equipment. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says while many initially supported retaliation, that attitude has waned, and a shift in strategy is a welcome change.
It's at grocery stores where the elbows up movement to buy Canadian over U.S. goods really hit home. And it's where Ottawa's counter tariffs against American products was felt most.
Counter tariffs were hurting Canadians.
The cost of counter tariffs on foods, says this food pricing expert, was taking a toll on grocery budgets. He predicts removing those measures as of September 1st will make a difference.
We could see prices drop for products like orange juice, for example, dry goods in the center of the store. I think, honestly, this is the right move.
After U.S. President Donald Trump launched a volley of tariffs against Canadian goods in February, Canada responded with its own. But for small businesses on this side of the border, that meant higher prices on clothing, furniture, and other items.
Our August survey data did show that that was the most harmful tariff on small businesses.
And so the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is happy to see them go. But
all of this is a prelude to the main event, the review of our CUSMA agreement with the US and Mexico next year. In the eyes of the current US administration, this is likely seen as a renegotiation. Our absolute priority must be to protect CUSMA. It is the foundation of our trade security and the only thing standing between us right now and a much more dire economic situation. Let's not kid ourselves here. Without the CUSMA protection, we would be in a very vulnerable situation. That's why this agreement is so critically important to us right now. Keeping CUSMA intact is everything. Please tell me in the comments below, how did you react when you heard that Mark Carney removes the counter tariffs? We read every thought and story you share. For more real news, facts and viewpoints to counterbalance the demagogic of the right-wing media, please like and subscribe. It goes a long way to help the channel. Till next time, I'm Wilfried Lemkuhler from Europe Curious.
You by our side, and we spent so many nights thinking how you did us wrong. Now we've banded all together. Your tariff made us strong, and so you know you're not so great. There's not a snowball's chance in hell will be your 51st state. We really need our resources for more than we need you, so now just go. Walk out the door. We do not need you. You're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who instigated these trade fights? You'll soon grow to regret it when we turn off your lights. We will survive. As long as we can think and work, we know we'll stay alive. We have all we really need. We can live without your greed. We will survive. We will survive. There's been a change. It's time anew. We're not that fledgling little country stealing all of you. We are now a nation proud that is happy to be free. You didn't realize you gave us our own identity, so now just go. We will survive. As long as we can think and work, we know we'll stay alive. Yeah, but all we really need, we can live without your greed. We will survive. We will survive. We will survive. Survive.
51st state, my fucking ass. Go on, Canada.